All right, good morning. It's Friday, July 12th. Needed to give you an update. I know we're going to have our webinars next Monday and Wednesday about coaching eligibility, rosters, and so forth, but I wanted to get some stuff out here fairly quickly this morning because I know you need some information. As of July the 11th, Thursday, the monitoring tool was back working like it should be. You could always see your list, but you couldn't click on a coach to actually see their requirements. Let's go over some of that real quick. So under eligibility, I sent out a video earlier about how coaches get in and see the rules clinics. I'm sorry, the sports safety. And I have a scribe page that I'm going to send out to everybody. It's kind of like a resource page with little, they're probably not couple minute shortcuts on how to do certain things. Some of what I'm going to go over in this video, but let's take a look real quick at and as Adair County and as assistant athletic director, we know right away that there's some things that need to be updated on this screen. It is lacking in several ways, and Arbiter knows it's top priority to get these things fixed. So first of all, we can't organized by sport in any way. It's an alpha list. So I will say this. Let's go and put our website up because you are still going to have access to this coaching list here. So, we're not going to shut this down, anytime soon, but essentially what you're seeing in your Arbiter monitoring page would be a few sorted alpha here. And, I think you've obviously hired, 5, 10, 15, 20 new coaches that need to get in and do things if they're new and they haven't came from another school, but that are certified. But we found last fall that, when we had that open records request that, out of 40 some hundred coaches, there were only 200 some odd that hadn't taken the sports safety, and they were probably new coaches for the most part. So I'm hoping let's focus, let's hone in on fall coaches and cheer and dance. I think they start fairly early too. So your fall coaches that are new, haven't been certified. So you can look at Adair counties. I mean, there's only a handful that have expired. Now, these are existing. This is as of June the 24th when we basically turned our system off, the ability to update our system. But you can always go in here and look at this. I will say this in comparison, and let me see if I can do this here. And then this. Yeah, let's go back into the status page. I will say in my, I have fair degree of certainty after yesterday that CPR expiration and the coaching edge sync is working. And there's some other exciting things on the NFHS Learn Sync that I'll show you here in a second. But I did check in Arbiter, and let's look at, for instance, we have Darren Breeze, good on fundamentals of the NFHS Learn course. You see here, good on the course. We've got Burton, NFHS. So I'm sorry, right here. So that's good. We had a CPR expiration on James Bryant. So let's look in James Bryant. Let's click on him. Yep, CPR expiration looks good. Now, Arbiter knows they've got some work to do. These are nice. The check marks are nice, very, very modern. We like that. But we also need to see data, like when is the expiration? Now, way it'll work, since it's more than likely a 2-year expiration, as long as they're good through the last day of regular season or the last day of postseason for the 24-25 school year, this will be green. And as long as they're good through the postseason of their sport for the 25-26 school year or whatever, it's a 2-year running period. So, for instance, right now this is saying this CPR expiration date is good through the last day of football postseason, which will be our state championship. So if we do that again next year, if this coach expires during that period, then that will be a red X there to signify that they have to do it. The coaches see essentially what you see here, but they have actions. They have to click on the clinics to take them. I will say this. After this week, hopefully these 8 modules will be combined into one, because what we've found is, like, most of our rules clinics are pushing an hour and a half anyway. And the new sports safety for 23-25, and I always say you're welcome, coaches, is 2.5 hours. So I think the last one was nearly 5 hours. So we're just going to combine this into one course. You can see here though that, and we'll make sure that if any of them are taking them individually, that we'll give credit, for the one course that's in here. I think that'll clean this up a little bit. You see that the EAP training date is entered. So in Arbiter's system, you have to consider that another deficiency that we have currently is that you cannot at a glance see exactly what they've done on this screen without drilling in, and we have to have that ability. We really need 5 icons here. We've got the rules clinic, we need sports safety, so we need the 2 different clinic icons for sports safety and the sport rules clinic. We need, this one's fine, NFHS Learn course, yeah, that's good. But this one, custom requirement is how it's handled in Arbiter. That is your CPR expiration and EAP. So I'm not sure. Maybe Darren's had one or the other, but I don't know which. Now, this will mark as completed when everything's done, but you know as well as me that the rules clinics don't come out until later in the school year. And so, not later in the school year, but, definitely more towards the start or mid part of their season. And sometimes they don't complete it until into the late period. So sometimes this will say not completed for some time. We need the ability, and Arbiter understands this, we have to be able to see at a glance, like we did in our old system, the main key items here. So let's just look. How would I update from this screen? EAP and CPR can be done in bulk. Similar to the way the EAP was done in bulk in our system. So what you can do is go here and check the coaches you want. Now, there's a couple, before I get into that, let's talk about this. This question's coming up. Why aren't there icons here for Randy Burns, any of these people? There's me on there, but there's one of two things. So either they have been removed from your school because there is a bug, removed from your staff page. There is a bug that once they are removed from your people and staff page, they're still showing up on here. Arbiter knows about that bug. That will be addressed. But otherwise, they could be a new coach that Tyler here, and I'm sorry, Tyler, I'm always picking on you. Maybe he just put Randy Burns on his staff list, but he has not added Randy Burns to a team under resources and teams. Well, you have to add a coach to a team, in a level before it quote unquote enrolls them into that eligibility. On a side note there, I know I sent out a video a couple days ago on how coaches can do their requirements. And on a coach, if they coach multiple sports, if you remember that video I shared, once they pick their account, it lists their eligibilities. They'll just have different sport eligibilities. I think in the example I had a volleyball, girls volleyball, and I had boys volleyball. So any sport that they are listed as, that shows up as a separate eligibility. But really the only difference is the rules clinic. So, it doesn't matter which eligibility they pick. If they've taken the sports safety and CPR and the fundamentals of coaching, then it's going to show good on either one of their sport eligibility. So real quick, if I wanted to do this in mass, I can select this one. Let's select Kyle. Let's say all these guys. That's my wife. And this was a bug because I used her as a demo for the coaches list, or for the coaches eligibility piece, how they see the sports safety. I removed her from the staff page, but she is still on the eligibility monitoring page here. So let's just say we want to do these in bulk. It's not apparent. If I was to ask you, where would you go to update? I would think, well, on most Arbiter screens, it's here. But it's up here in these little 3 elliptical dots here. So let's mark a requirement as complete. So here you can send emails as well. That's kind of a bulk email thing. If you wanted to email all your coaches, technically you could check here and go up to send email. Now, I wouldn't do that until we get the bug fixed to where they're removed off the list. But back to the task at hand, let's go ahead and hit the 3 dots. Let's mark a requirement as complete. You're going to see several. You only have the rights to do ones that we allow you to do, which would be custom requirements. So as you can see, it's kind of expandable. We could add different custom requirements. I think the long-term goal would be that you could add your own custom requirements for your district items. But you can see where this could go in the future years. But let's just say, let's do CPR. So, okay, I picked my custom requirement. What is this? Let's do CPR. Some of these I need to clean up. But let's do CPR expiration. And just a little note, even though it says completion date, um, and it doesn't matter if it's an expiration or if it's a day of type thing, completion date, it's going to say completion date. So for CPR expiration, you're going to see the little widget here. You can hit a couple, most of them are 2 years. So let's say these three they did their CPR expiration day. You could simply do this, hit the 12th, hit mark complete, and those three would be marked complete. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to cancel out of here just to save time, but say you want to do EAP training for the fall, say they're fall coaches, you could put, in this case, we could just go back. Let's say, we did it yesterday, July the 11th, mark is complete. So I like that. How would you go into each individual coach and do it? It's very similar. You just click on them there in Breeze. And you see here, that's why his little icon custom wasn't green, because again, for that custom requirement, it's these two, and he hadn't had the winter EAP training because he's a basketball coach. So you would do the same thing up here. You would hit the three little elliptical dots, mark requirements complete. In his case, we would do custom requirement, EAP winner. And we could put, maybe you're doing your EAPs now. I don't know, but, whenever that would be, probably sometime coming up in the month or so, and you put it in there. So that's how you would individually go in. Like if somebody wasn't there for your EAP training when you had them all there, you can go in and do a one-off. Mark complete, and you're good to go. I'm not going to save anything here. What the coaches see, I think I showed you in the video that I sent out earlier this week. And I'm going to send out, I've got a scribe page that's compiling all of these things. And so I definitely want to send that out. But the coach sees something very similar to this when they log in. And so instead of, if when a coach logs in, if you haven't entered their CPR expiration, it's going to say pending. They can't really do it. The same thing with EAP. The rest of this, though, there's going to be a link here for them to do the sports safety and so forth. And there'll be a link on their page. This one's already done, Fundamentals of Coaching, but there'll be a link on their view to where they can click on NFHS Learn. And ideally, we want them to link them straight to the Fundamentals course. But hey, at least it's a small win. It is taking them to the NFHS Learn page. Same criteria. Tell them to use the same email address, Darren Breeze at adair.kyschools.us for NFHS Learn, and they will sync automatically. I did want to point out something really quick here on, let's look at a cheer coach on Adair County, because what I've done, on certain sports, we have additional requirements. You may or may not know this. It's not in our system. It was really hard to find that. We're in our school login page, our member school page. So for cheerleading and dance coaches, and you can have sideline cheers in here as well in Arbiter. I know that's a pretty popular thing. Is I can, on their requirements, I can put the Understanding Music and Copyright Compliance course from NFHS Learn. Diving coaches, under their eligibility, they'll see an additional one. It'll say coaching diving. And then pole vault is different. It's not its own individual sport, of course. So I have it tied to the track and field eligibility. So I think more people will take it. It's free, but that one will show up there. So let's look at a cheer coach here. I know James Holt hasn't taken it, but what we can show here is, let's just search for Holt. So if we look at James, you can see it's there, but he's not taking it. Now, it could be I know the fundamentals isn't showing up either, so it could be an email issue. Maybe it's not synced up correctly. So let's go back and let's look at Osman. If I look at Osman, you'll see here, yep, Understanding Copyright and Compliance. So I think that's pretty cool. And your diving coaches will see that, diving, whatever. And we can, over the years, that'll probably change. It could increase, could decrease, but that's one good, nice thing about the system. I think that covers about all we can go over now on this. We'll go over more in depth next week on our webinars. And we do know, again, we know that we need to be able to see things at a glance here. We need to see more icons here. especially a district position like a district admin in Jefferson County or 14 high schools. When they switch up here to go to high schools, they don't have time to drill down. We understand that. They don't have time to drill down and say, hey, okay, well, he's not good, but was it CPR expiration, or was he not? Has his AD not done the EAP training with him? So we know we need to fix that. Again, a known bug is they're still showing up on here. My wife is no longer on the staff list. She's still there. I think that's pretty much it for eligibility right now. We have not got past coaches' sports safety completions over yet, but we do know that the CPR and the fundamentals of coaching should be good. Let me know if it's not in your situation. Real quick, when you're adding a coach, and I sent out a little instruction about this, but when you're adding a coach from your people page, okay, think of this list, and it's ugly. We know we need to be able to sort this. We need to be able to see the sports, at least icons, or group by sport, list the sport here, something. We gotta work on this for sure. But the main thing is when you add a new staff member, notice this, an existing. So remember when we migrated every coach from our system over. So if they were at another school and you're hiring them, it's the same as in our system. Now you can't do a last name search yet, and there's some work that we would hope would get done on this. But you're just going to say, hey, coach, you're hiring them. You knew they were at Fleming County last year. It's more than likely rob.catron at fleming.kyschools.us. But find out what email address they used. If it's a Gmail account, just like in our system, don't get hung up on the email. Search for it, add it, and then once it's on your list, you can hit the pencil over here and update their username to what it needs to be, your school email, and then you can remove their old email. So again, just real quick, be sure and do that. Look for search for the existing account. Now, what you're going to find is probably these that have no information listed here. They're more than likely new, because they should have pulled over. Like we had all address and phone information in there for existing coaches. So if it's a coach that was in there last year and you pull them over and it's blank, then we got to figure out, what their email address was, add the correct one, and do some little work on there. I want to go real quick though on the resources and teams. So, I've said this before. I like the fact that this is where you add and remove teams, you add students to the roster, you add coaches to the roster, and so forth. But I just wanted to point out a few things. We did load the student rosters over, and you can, hover again. Now, when we did this, you should have seen no green on freshman and JV teams, but it looks like they've went in here and made some already in Adair County. But whistles mean there's coaches assigned. But what we did, let's just look at football varsity. And you can get this a number of ways. It's probably quicker just to go in through here. This is where I'll put a plug in here. Make sure you got that default assigners group right. And if it's not right and you've entered games, you're going to have to go fix your games. But that's a side note. I just wanted to stress that while you're here. You can get to the team roster page here. And it's probably, to me, it's a little bit quicker. So this is where you would add and remove your coaches. And again, those coaches won't have their eligibility until you add them to this team. If you've got a golf coach that's now going to be an assistant football coach, you add them here. And then when they log in, they're going to see football eligibility, golf eligibility, and they pick each one. Kind of similar to the way our system was. So what you should see, remember everything in Arbiter is by school year. And so our intent was, we haven't loaded past rosters in yet. We have past coaches in yet. You notice there, go back, you can see the different coaches changed over the years. I think it was 11, 12, or somewhere in there where we went back to. But we got several years, and eventually we're going to put the athletes down here as well. But what we did a couple weeks ago, actually during probably the week of the 4th or the week before the 4th, the idea was we put the 23-24 rosters in. And then we did what we always do in our system. We put the 24-25s in, and we advanced their grade. We removed any senior. We graduated any seniors off the list. So in other words, on the 23-24, McKinley would have been a sophomore, junior, freshman, etc. Couple notes here. We by default, I think this has been fairly positive. We are defaulting them to yes on the postseason. Because let's face it, for the most part, you were going in and initializing postseason, then you had to go in and move every freshman and JV over to the postseason roster. I think it'd be easier now just for the one-offs. You would go in and remove them from the postseason. So just wanted to point that out as well. One thing about Arbiter is I like is you will see their complete athletic history, their history and their sports here. So that's kind of nice. And eventually we will put the online transfer piece probably mid to late fall, early winter, sometime in there. There's a whole lot to do with that that's way above my pay grade, of course. But I just wanted to point that out. Now, the student list. So this covers more or less our roster system with the addition of the coaching piece. We didn't add coaches on a roster like we do in here. But let's talk about where is your overall athlete roster. In our system, that's what we called it, the overall athlete roster. That was where you had all your students listed, and then you assign them to these rosters here. Well, that is under eligibility and students. Now, please, this is a fairly new concept for me since we just put it out, and we will know this by our webinar for Monday and next Wednesday, is it does include, as you can see, the 2024 graduating students. Please, for now, don't go in and remove those. Let's leave them in there because as you remember, everything in Arbiter is by school year, and I think it's a historical. It's going to affect what my understanding is, it may affect your rosters on your Arbiter Live page and past history. So let me dig into that, and let's regroup next Monday and Wednesday, and we'll describe that. Feel free to add athletes, and it's my understanding that if you use Arbiter registration, student registration, that they will automatically appear on your student list. You remember in our system, you had to enter all incoming seventh graders. I don't know a lot about that functionality now. I know some Arbiter's been meeting with schools on that topic. But I told them, hey, the ADs would love that if they use student registration, they automatically, get put in here, and coaches and ADs don't have to go in and enter all of these students. Also, in that regards, you can import students. So technically, if Infinite Campus, if you can get it's the same way you import schedules. If you can get a dump, you can get the template and you can import students. Remember, in our system, you couldn't do that. I get the question of when I'm adding a new student, what ID, let's use their student ID, your school's ID. Because remember, we had our IDs, but now it's a new ball game. So it's kind of like, some of the IDs are going to be ours, but over time, they're going to be replaced, over 4 or 5 years, 4 years, they're going to be your student ID numbers. So, I think that is pretty much it. Again, I just want to stress, let's don't do anything with the 24 students graduated that are still on here. Let's wait, let's regroup, and let's talk about that next week. Now, look, I know this is a lot. Just keep asking me the questions, and it's what I like doing. And we know we've got work to do. Arbiter knows we got work to do, but just stay tuned. I think it's going to be good, really good in the long run. I think in a year from now, we're going to be like, wow, this is super. So thank you, and have a good day. See you next Monday and possibly Wednesday.